Hello and welcome to the Sports Power Hour on WIUX 99.1 FM here in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm Brandon Pavlina alongside Jake Barajas. We missed you all these last 2 weeks or so that we've been off the air, and we hope that for you students out there that your studies are going well as we wind down on the fall semester of 2015. But since it's been a while since we last talked to you all here on the Sports Power Hour, there's been some big happenings in the world of sports. The Indiana Hoosiers football team has been awarded a bowl game. The college football playoff stage has been set. The Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball team had 2 bounce-back victories and really have their offense flowing. But, I mean, the real question at the end of the day is anybody going to beat the Golden State Warriors? I mean, seriously, come on. They're unbelievable. But before we get into all that and more, let's kick off the show this week with a little Thursday night football action. It was a matchup between 2 division leaders. The Minnesota Vikings tied for the lead atop the NFC North, and the Cardinals, of course, leading the NFC West. And it was a hard-fought game, a game that had NFC playoff implications. But in the end, the Arizona Cardinals were able to come out on top. The final score, 23-20. The Vikings suffered a costly late fumble within field goal range in the waning moments of the game by quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. That fumble would prove to be the deciding moment in the game, but for Thursday night football, it didn't get much better than last night, as both of these teams are playing at a high level, both offensively and defensively, and they put it on display on a short week last night. So let me open up the conversation by asking you, Jake, what did you see in the game last night that featured the Minnesota Vikings on the road against the Arizona Cardinals? I totally agree with you as far as the Vikings being a team that really at this point in the season, nobody knows, what to make of them because, like you just said, again, they play, some exceptional football on a week-to-week basis, but then there's times where they don't really look the part of an NFC contender. They played well in the game last night, and early on, Adrian Peterson really got out to an early start in the football game, and I thought for sure that, he was going to have a big day. It ended up being Teddy Bridgewater who had the big game for the Vikings. Bridgewater finished with 335 yards, touchdown, a 69% completion rating, whereas Peterson, 23 carries, 69 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. Bridgewater, of course, did fumble as well on the final play of the game. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Again, I'm just not totally sold on that Vikings team just yet. I think that they're very close to being a legitimate contender in the NFC. But for the time being, I think that their defense is stout. I think it's extremely talented. I think that Mike Zimmer, I think he's doing a tremendous job really just over the last few seasons. He's really built a strong defense that team can play off of and really helps keep them in ball games. I just think on the offensive side of the ball, I need to see a little more out of Teddy Bridgewater. Again, the decision-making last night when they were within field goal range to scramble around, lose the football, and essentially lose your team the game. That's tough. That's a tough one to swallow, especially, again, when you're playing such a talented team in the Arizona Cardinals, and you're holding the candle to them in Arizona, for 4 quarters.
What do you think about this team as far as it goes winning a Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are a legitimate contender. I mean, with Carson Palmer running the show, like you just mentioned, he's an MVP candidate this year. He threw for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns last night, along with a 71% completion rating. I mean, there are times where Carson Palmer in that offense just looked unbeatable. I mean, He really, when he's healthy and when they have the playmakers that they need on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, they are one of the best, if not the best, offense in the league with Carson Palmer at the helm.
Especially when Michael Floyd's playing well, too. He's had 100 yards in 4 of his last 5 games he's played, so I don't know how you're going to stop him when you have your third option really in the offense going for 100 yards every game.
Yeah, no, seriously. Michael Floyd, again, 5 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown last night. The rookie running back, David Johnson, has really exploded onto the scene for the Cardinals after having a couple early touchdowns early on in the season. He really has become a much bigger part of the offense in the absence of Andre Ellington and Chris Johnson, who the Cardinals lost to injuries 2 weeks ago. David Johnson last night on the game, 19 carries, 92 yards, 5 receptions, 31 yards. But that kid really, he can run the ball well, man. I mean, there are times where he hits the hole and I mean, he's looking to hurt people, and he can absolutely fly, too. He's got a great set of hands. He's really a complete back, and I think that for Bruce Arians and that Cardinals offense going forward in the future, he can be a guy that you could look to maybe become one of the premier feature backs in the NFL. Yeah, I really like the Matt Forte comparison. They have a similar makeup as far as their physical build. And again, the hands on David Johnson.
Both great pass catches.
Yeah, they can catch the ball well out of the backfield, run the ball hard, run the ball with a little more of an upright style than most other runners. But hey, that's a great person to be compared to if you're just entering the league, because Matt Forte has really, become the poster boy for pass catching receivers out of the backfield and running backs of that nature. One quick thing before we move on from Thursday night football, you did touch on Patrick Peterson. He was tasked with covering Stephon Diggs last night, and he held the rookie receiver to 2 receptions and 12 yards. And yeah, it was a lot of fun getting to watch those two go at it all game long. As when you're a rookie in the NFL, obviously one of the things you look forward to are the matchups with players that you see as being some of the top talent in the country, in the world, at their position. And obviously Patrick Peterson, that kind of individual at cornerback. Stephon Diggs, the rookie, trying to take him on and learned a lesson the hard way that Patrick Peterson, he's been in this game for a couple of years now, and he's been doing it at a high level for quite some time. And you got to really earn your stripes before you can come in and just make it, things happen on the field every single week. All right, we're going to move on to IU football, as the Indiana Hoosiers were awarded the 2015 New Era Pinstripe Bowl, which will be held December 26th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be held in New York at Yankee Stadium. The Indiana Hoosiers will be taking on the Duke Blue Devils, and this will be Kevin Wilson's first bowl game as a head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. And this will also be the Hoosiers' first bowl game since 2007. The Duke Blue Devils have had an eerily similar season to the Hoosiers. Duke starting off their season 6-1 before losing 4 straight ACC games, then finally beating Wake Forest in the final game of their season to finish at 7-5. The Hoosiers began their season 4-0, then proceeded to lose their next 6 games, all against Big Ten opponents. The Hoosiers then wrapped up their season with 2 victories in their final 2 games to finish the season at 6-6. The Blue Devils are a talented team. They finished in the top 5 in the ACC in both points per game, offensive yards per game, and they ranked 6th in the ACC in fewest points allowed per game. Kevin Wilson can really take some notes from Duke head coach David Cutcliffe on how to turn over a program, as Cutcliffe's predecessor, Ted Roof, amassed a 6-45 record over the 4+ years in his tenure. Cutcliffe took over the team in 2008, and with their postseason appearance here in 2015, Duke now has had a string of 4 consecutive bowl game appearances, the best mark in Duke football history. This is going to be a great test for the Hoosiers. And it's a big step for a program that's really been, in the rebuilding process over the last half decade or so. But nothing would be a better cap to the season for Kevin Wilson and the Hoosiers than a bowl victory to really give the team and the program some momentum heading into the future. Jordan Howard had a knee scope prior to the game in West Lafayette against Purdue in the final week of the regular season, and it is currently unknown whether or not Howard will be available for the Hoosiers in the Pinstripe Bowl. But one thing is for sure, and that's that they'll have Nate Sudfeld under center. Sudfeld finished the season ranked 23rd in the nation in passing yards and amassed a grand total of 3,184 yards. He also finished in the top 25 in passing touchdowns on the season with 24. So when you have one of the most talented passers in the country running your offense, you're going to have a legitimate chance to win against any team, and I see that being the case for the Hoosiers in this game against the Duke Blue Devils. Jake, what do you think, man? I mean, again, this is a great game for the Indiana Hoosiers. They're playing an opponent who, like I said to start off the segment, they're a really similar program to where the Hoosiers are, as far as in their rebuilding phase and just the kind of season that these two programs have had. So I think this will be a really great test for the Hoosiers to kind of see, and test the waters and see, how they're coming along as far as, a program and a team.
There's really no replacing Jordan Howard on this offense.
No, there's really not. Howard has been, he's been an absolute force. That kid, the way he runs the football, he runs hard. He finishes runs. He does the little things better than just about anybody else in the country that I've seen as far as a running back goes. Unfortunately, Howard's season has been plagued with some injuries. Again, the knee scope coming in the last week of the regular season before the game against Purdue. But yeah, I think this is a great bowl for the Hoosiers to have been awarded. I was reading somewhere over the last week or so that Indiana has a fan base or a collection of alumni in the New York area that stands around like 15,000. And Yankee Stadium holds right around 50, 60,000. It'll be a really good, a great stage for the Hoosiers to be able to put their program on display and really show people that, that they've really become a more legitimate, college football team than they have in years past, where, a lot of times they were looked at as a doormat team. Now you at least, if anything, you have the offense that has ranked in the top, 25 or so in the country all season long as far as the yards and the points that they're putting up. Yeah, absolutely. Like you just mentioned, the Hoosiers played at one point in the season a stretch of games where they faced 3 consecutive, I believe it might have been it was either top 20, top 15 teams in the Big Ten. And they went into the fourth quarter with an opportunity to win every single one of those games. So they've shown the ability to play with any team in the country. And, again, nothing would really be better for this Hoosier program than just a bowl win, just to really come out in New York and play well and just give the team something that they can, send the players to recruit, and just say, hey, look,
that's huge for
we're
recruiting.
improving. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe we could get some revenge on them for that beatdown they put on us at Cameron Indoor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe the football guys can go out there and get some revenge on the Duke Blue Devils after the beatdown that Coach K's Blue Devils put on the Hoosiers just a short week and a half ago or so. All right, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk some college football as the college football playoff has been set. It's exciting. It's a great time of year, folks. We will be right back. You're listening to the Sports Power Hour on WIUX 99.1 FM. All right, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk some college football as the college football playoff has been set. It's exciting. It's a great time of year, folks. We will be right back. You're listening to the Sports Power Hour on WIUX 99.1 FM. Yeah, it is really kind of, Deshaun Watson obviously in the conversation. A lot of people consider him to be the top quarterback in the nation, and even the people running the show of the college football, as he was awarded the Davey O'Brien Award last night. That award is given to acknowledge the nation's top quarterback. So, yeah, Deshaun Watson, again, he's an exceptional player, and he's, played for that Clemson team and led them to an undefeated regular season, rather. But, yeah, like you said, again, Derrick Henry, the way that guy runs the ball, I haven't heard much about him being in the conversation as far as where he will get drafted next year. I saw just initially for the first time some, first 10 picks, projections. I don't know. I got to think, honestly, out of a lot of the players that I've seen come out of the draft at running back over the course of the last few seasons, you saw Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon, 2 of the big names that went in the first round last year. I think Derrick Henry has an opportunity to really be better than just about all of them. He's got to build like similar to kind of, I don't want to compare him to an Eddie Lacy right now because of the way Eddie Lacy's playing.
He's all muscle, though. Eddie Lacy, I know he's gotten pretty big, and they call him feast mode now, but
it's pretty funny.
But Derrick Henry's a guy who's all muscle. That guy's jacked.
Yeah, no, he is very big, and I've heard that a lot of the commentators on the games that he plays in, they've said one thing to watch this kid on TV, but when you see him in person, you see the size, just the height, the mass, the way that he's built. They said it's just incredible. So, I think Derrick Henry, like you just said, again, he won the Maxwell Award, the Doak Walker, and the Walter Camp. Walter Camp is the Player of the Year award. Doak Walker, the top running back award in college football, and the Maxwell Award given to the most outstanding player in college football. So, when you win those 3 awards, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I got to imagine if you go back and look at it, the winner of the Maxwell Award and the Walter Camp for the most outstanding and for the Player of the Year, I got to imagine you win those 2 awards, you got a pretty good chance of winning the Heisman. You wouldn't be getting those awards in the first place if you weren't already in the conversation. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not the running back will get the victory in the Heisman candidacy, as it has really been a predominantly a quarterback won award over the last few seasons. But it'll be exciting to see. Again, college football now has its stage set. The final 4 teams. Number 1, the Clemson Tigers. Number 2, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Number 3, the Michigan State Spartans. And number 4, the Oklahoma Sooners. So college football playoff stage is set. It's going to be exciting. The Capital One Orange Bowl will be Clemson taking on Oklahoma. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl, Alabama taking on Michigan State. Jake, let's get the conversation started. What do you see? What are you looking forward to seeing in these 2 games? Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing Alabama take on Michigan State. I know a lot of people have considered Oklahoma to be the dark horse and a team that has the ability to kind of surprise people and maybe actually come out and win this thing. But I think, honestly, Alabama, Michigan State, I think Michigan State's an exceptionally talented football team, although they talk about Alabama and that wood chipper of a defense that they have. I mean, it's going to be fun. I really loved the college football playoff last year. Again, you don't have to look any further than to see that it was, 3 of the highest rated TV programs in the history of television last year, the college football games, to know that, again, people are loving this stuff. So the second year, again, they have at least one under their belt now, so they can kind of, go back and see where they made some mistakes and try to improve. And so I'm really looking forward to it this year. I think the committee did a really good job all year long of keeping it honest and really just letting the country know where people stood, and I think they did a good job as far as their Final Four as well. Just putting in the right teams and really taking into consideration the right things like a conference championship and not really allowing losses to play or hinder their decisions too strongly. We're going to take a look next at the Indiana Hoosiers basketball team. The Indiana Hoosiers, we touched on it earlier in the show. They had a tough game against the Duke Blue Devils in Carolina just a couple weeks ago that the Hoosiers, again, they lost it. They didn't play all that great, but it's still early on in the season. Jake, I know you had some good stuff coming up about this. What do you got about the Indiana Hoosiers basketball team in the upcoming schedule? Yeah, that's very true. Again, the Hoosiers just barely able to make the postseason and the tournament of 64 last year. But yeah, like you just said, again, the defense is really the part of the team that just needs to be examined thoroughly by Tom Crean. Again, as the Hoosiers in their last 2 games prior to the loss, the 20-point loss against the Duke Blue Devils, the Hoosiers able to beat Morehead State by a final score of 92-59. And the Indiana Hoosiers able to beat IPFW 65-90. So the Hoosiers, they put up 90 points in the last 2 games, and they've held their opponent, at bay 59 and 65 respectively in those 2 games.
Really, what can you get from those 2 games?
Right, exactly. You're not going to learn a whole lot about your team as far as, the character of the team, how they're going to play in big games. You're playing games that you're supposed to win by 30 and you're winning them by 30. So, congratulations. And you look at the upcoming schedule. I mean, again, McNeese State, then again, Notre Dame, like you touched on, and then Kennesaw State, and then I'm pretty sure that concludes their out-of-conference schedule, because then you start Big Ten play.
They've really put themselves in a hole here.
Yeah, no, I gotta agree with you 100%. After a while, right? You gotta do something to change the culture of your basketball team.
And he has the talent there. We all know he's a great recruiter, one of the best in the country, but if his guys aren't motivated to play defense, then that's on him.
Oh, absolutely. And again, you're not going to win a lot of games in the Big Ten this year with the talented teams at the top of the Big Ten if you're not going to play defense. I mean, again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show. A very similar situation to a guy like Tom Thibodeau in the NBA, where his whole thing for how long was that, he was a defensive guy and he didn't want to hire offensive coaches. Well, Tom Crean seems to be an offensive guy and not really want to do anything for the defensive side of the ball. I know that at the end of the day, the point is to score more points than your opponent, but when you're giving up, 90-something points to your opponent, sure, you can win those shootout games every once in a while, but the amount of effort and energy that you have to exert in order to even keep yourself in a ball game like that, I mean, the Hoosiers will be burnt out by halfway through the season. Welcome back to the Sports Power Hour. I'm Brandon Pavlina, joined here this morning by Jake Barajas. We're We're talking NFL Week 14, just like we do every week. We'll be running through each game, giving you our predictions as well as some stats and information that may come in handy when picking your fantasy lineup for this weekend. Or maybe we'll fill you in on something about one of your favorite teams that you didn't know about. Regardless, let's get right into it. And we were unable to make predictions for 4 weeks of the season. So for 4 weeks, we were off air during the NFL season. So for the 9 weeks that we have been on air and kept tally, the current Sports Power Hour prediction standings look like this. And thanks to a 10-3 week in Week 11, there has been a change atop the leaderboard as I was able to climb to the top of the standings. Again, with a 10-3 week in Week 11, that was our last time on the air. I now currently sit at 69-39 in first place. Jake and Elias, after Jake held a commanding lead virtually all season long, has slipped up late, and now Jake and Elias both tied in second place with 68-40 as their record. So I'm in the lead, but it's only a 1-game lead. So as this may very well be our final week of predictions here on the Sports Power Hour for the NFL season. This week's going to be pretty significant, so we'll see what's going on. With only 4 weeks of the NFL season left, including this weekend, let's jump right into it. NFL Week 14. First game up, the Buffalo Bills will travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles in LaShawn McCoy's first game back in Philadelphia after being traded by the team this past offseason. Jake, who do you have in this one? Yeah, absolutely. This game is mired in controversy following reports that DeMarco Murray expressed his frustration with his role in the offense to the team owner on the team flight from Foxborough back to Philadelphia after the win over the Patriots this weekend. You got that to go along with LaShawn McCoy returning to Philadelphia to play his former team and former coach, Chip Kelly, who has had some bold remarks. He had some bold remarks about Chip after leaving the team this past offseason. But once you get past all the nonsense surrounding this game, you look at the play of these two teams on the field. I know the Eagles beat the Patriots this past weekend and maybe even save their season, but to me, the Bills have just been playing better all-around football over the last few weeks, and with a healthy Tyrod Taylor back under center, that offense can really mix it up and do a lot of things to challenge a defense. The biggest stat to me about this game, though, is that the Bills are 6-2 when rushing for 127 yards or more this season, and they're 0-4 when gaining 115 or fewer rushing yards. And the Eagles rank 27th in the league in rushing defense, surrendering an average of 124.7 yards per game. So I'm looking for McCoy and the Bills offense to have a big day against the Eagles. I'm taking Buffalo to get the win on the road in Philadelphia. Next game up, 49ers will travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, the 49ers, you just touched on it. They played really poorly on the road this season. Blaine Gabbert, though, 2-2 as a starter in San Francisco. He's coming off an impressive showing. Again, he rushed for a 44-yard touchdown to tie the game in regulation.
Gosh, that was despicable. Oh, my gosh. How do you let Blaine Gabbert get a 44-yard touchdown? I was sitting there watching the games on Sunday. I didn't have that game up, but I saw on the fantasy cast, Blaine Gabbert ran for a 44-yard touchdown. I'm like, okay, they must have messed something up. It must have been Sean Drone or somebody else had a 44-yard touchdown. Then you seen Blaine Gabbert.
He's scampering up the field, man, just flying.
They missed every tackle on him.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's sorry. It's a couple of my buddies in my fantasy league from back home were just unbelievable. I mean, they're huge Bears fans. I know you're a big Bears fan as well. Just absolutely so frustrated with the performance last week. Gabbert, though, again, he's played well at times for the 49ers, which has been surprising. But again, Manziel, yeah, he's been named the starter after he's been benched for the last 2 games after a video surfaced of Manziel partying during the team's bye week. He's not going to have a whole lot to work with, Manziel, but he's going to be the starter for the remainder of the season. But this is really a final audition for him. This is big because he's had second and third and fourth chances already with the Browns. And while he's shown improvement on the field, that's not going to be enough for a team to take a flyer on him, given his reoccurring on the field issues. And he was quoted this week as saying, "I'm going to come in here every day and give every ounce of energy that I have to try to win these last 4 games, whether the odds are against us, whether we are favored, huge underdogs, or whatever the case may be. We need to win some of these games." So I think his mentality and approach to this final opportunity is on point, and I think Manziel realizes it's time for him to put up or shut up. I'm really looking forward to seeing Johnny Football back out on the field, and I'm really leaning towards Manziel and his sense of urgency to win. I'm going to take the Browns at home over the 49ers, but this is going to be a miserable game. Next game up, the Lions will travel to St. Louis to take on the Rams. Jake, who do you got? The Lions 1 play away from a 4-game win streak. Meanwhile, the Rams have been outscored 58-10 in their last 2 games and ranked dead last in the league in passing yards per game with just 178 yards per. And they have a third down conversion rate of just 24.5. They'll be quarterbacked this week by Case Keenum, who was out the last 2 games with a concussion. Rookie running back Todd Gurley for the Rams. He's averaged just 3.3 yards per carry over his last 5 games. He's going to be having another tough matchup this week against a Lions defense that has given up an average of just 2.7 yards per carry to running backs over their last 4 games. So the Lions, that front has really started to play well. The Lions offense, they've averaged 26 points per game over their last 4, and they've given up an average of just 17.5. So the Lions, like you just said, they're playing good football, man. They're hot right now. From Stafford to that defense, the whole Lions team is trending up. I see that trend continuing against a struggling Rams team. I'm taking the Lions to get the win on the road in St. Louis against the Rams. Next game up, the Saints will travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, the Bucs, again, they're going to be looking to move over 500 for the first time in 3 years. In order to do that, they're going to have to take down the Saints, who played the Panthers really well last week. Doug Martin, again, he's reemerged in the Tampa offense. He ranks second in the NFL with 1,133 rushing yards. He's going to be facing a Saints defense currently leading the league in most rush yards allowed per game. So look for him to have a big day. The Saints defense has also allowed 35 passing touchdowns so far this season through just 12 games, and they are 5 shy of tying the most ever allowed by a defense. That record set by the Denver Broncos in 1963. So a historically bad defense for the Saints and a surging Buccaneers team being led by Jameis Winston and Doug Martin, and with New Orleans averaging just 17.5 points per game on the road this season. I'm going to go with the Bucs at home in Tampa over the Saints. Next game up, the Titans will travel to New York to take on the Jets. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, the New York Jets are going to attempt to win their 3rd consecutive game for the first time in 4 years. Marcus Mariota, though, you just said he's coming off a monster game. He threw for 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, and ran for a team-high 112 yards and a touchdown. With Mariota's 3 touchdown passes, he currently sits at 19 on the season, which is the most by a Titans quarterback since Steve McNair's 24 back in 2003. Mm-hmm. Mariota, again, he said, what's up?
Oh, and I was just going to say he did his best Blaine Gabbert impression on his 87-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, unbelievable scamper by Marcus Mariota last week. You know, Mariota's had some flashes of brilliance, but the consistency of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Brandon Marshall has been unbelievable. Brandon Marshall, 10 touchdown catches on the season. He's eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark for the 8th time in his 10 seasons in the league. So, I mean, he's unbelievable. I can't imagine why the Bears chose to part ways with him. But the Jets' defense will be without Darrelle Revis likely for a 3rd consecutive game. He's still trying to get through the league's concussion protocol. But, yeah, again, you know, Jets playing good football. I'm going to take the Jets to get the win at home over the Titans. But this game may be a little closer than people think. We'll see. Game of the week for me, next game up is the Steelers. They will be traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Jake, what do you think? The Bengals are going to look to sweep the series against the Steelers for the first time since the 2009 season. Steelers have won 8 consecutive games in the month of December, though. But in order to get their 9th, they're going to have to beat the Bengals. And the Bengals, again, they've only given up 16.3 points per game, and that leads the league. So their defense is playing unbelievable. In this series, though, the Cincinnati has lost 8 of the last 11 meetings against the Steelers since 2009. The Bengals have also lost 20 of their last 25 at home in this division rivalry. The Bengals are hot and they're good, but they're beatable. And I think the Steelers are going to make a late season push, and it's going to start this weekend. I'm taking the Steelers on the road in Cincinnati against the Bengals. Next game up, Colts will be traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Jake, who do you got? Absolutely. Matt Hasselbeck, he's going to be under center this week for the Indianapolis Colts, but he was forced out of the game in the 4th quarter against the Steelers last week. An MRI revealed he suffered a mild rib separation and a stiff neck. Blake Bortles, on the other hand, set a franchise record for the Jaguars last week, throwing his 27th touchdown of the season. He passed David Garrard's single-season record of 23. Allen Robinson, 11 touchdowns on the season, became the first Jaguars 1,000-yard receiver since 2005. So this Jaguars offense is one of the most talented that they've had in a long time, and they nearly beat the Colts in the first matchup, Indy being propelled to victory thanks to 2 missed field goals by Jacksonville's kicker, Jason Myers. I like for Jacksonville to bounce back after consecutive tough losses in which they played relatively well these last 2 weeks. I'm going to take the Jaguars at home over the Colts. Next game up, the Chargers will travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, Chiefs might be the hottest team in football that nobody's talking about, as they'll look to win their 7th consecutive game after starting off the season 1-5 and losing their star running back Jamal Charles to an ACL injury. The Kansas City Chiefs, they've given up an average of just 14.4 points per game over the last 8 games. That is an elite level of defense. And offensively, Jeremy Maclin has been hot, and virtually whoever they play at running back, it seems like, has just been cutting up the field. So Andy Reid has his team playing some exceptional football right now. They beat the Chargers just a few weeks ago in San Diego by a final score of 33-3. So playing at Arrowhead, this is a no-brainer to me. I'm taking the Chiefs over the Chargers this week in Kansas City. Next game up, the Redskins will travel to Chicago to take on the Bears. Who do you got, Jake? Yeah, the Redskins have one win in their last 19 road games dating back to October of 2013. And that's all I got to say about that. So I'm going to take the Bears to get the win at home over the Redskins. The next game up, the Falcons will travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Jake, what do you got? Cam Newton's thrown 5 touchdown passes in 2 of his last 3 games, accumulating a career high of 25 already on the season and rushing for 7 more touchdowns as well. He's just on a mission to take this team as far as he can, with Kuechly and Davis leading the defense. If the Panthers, if they can stay healthy, they have a very good chance of running the table. I'm going to take the Panthers to get the win at home over the Falcons and improve to 13-0 on the season. Next game up, the Seahawks will travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, Seahawks have been rolling behind Russell Wilson and Thomas Rawls, averaging 35 points per game over the last 3 games. And they just dominated the Vikings last week. Final score of 38-7 on the road in Minnesota. They're starting to hit that late season stride that they have over the last 2 seasons, and they're doing it the way we've been accustomed to seeing, and that's by running the football, as they currently lead the league in rushing yards per game with 146.6 yards per. Look, Seattle they didn't make back-to-back Super Bowls by accident. They have a tremendous amount of talent and leadership, and they have one of the best football minds in the game in Pete Carroll. This Seahawks team is going to be a lot of fun to watch coming down the home stretch here. I'm taking the Seahawks to get the win on the road in Baltimore over the Ravens. All right, 2 afternoon games this week. First one up, Raiders will travel to Denver to take on the Broncos. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, the Broncos are going to look to win their 9th straight game against the visiting Oakland Raiders, and the Broncos will also have a chance to win their 4th consecutive game behind Arizona State product quarterback Brock Osweiler. Osweiler has thrown for 686 yards and 4 touchdowns in the 3 games that he started the season, but it's really been that tremendous Denver defense that has led the way for the Broncos, as they really have all season. Meanwhile, the Raiders are cooling off after a hot start, losing 4 of their last 5 games. The Broncos have won their last 3 home games against the Raiders by a combined score of 121-41, so it's safe to say that in Denver against the Raiders, the Broncos have been dominant in recent years, and I expect to see more of that this weekend. I'm taking the Broncos to get the win at home in the thin Denver air over the Raiders. Next game up, the Cowboys will travel to Lambeau to take on the Packers. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, I'd be really surprised to see the Packers lose again after the miraculous finish to the game. Again, Aaron Rodgers completing a 61-yard Hail Mary pass in the end zone to tight end Richard Rodgers to win the game after the game was extended an extra play on a face mask penalty as the game clock expired. Just, again, a truly unbelievable finish to a game and a huge win for a Packers team that at times, again, like you said, they really played well below expectations this season. But I think that it's just the kind of win that the Packers needed to really get some much-needed momentum here late in the season, especially coming into a game as the Packers will look to avoid losing their 3rd consecutive home game for the first time since 2006. Again, I don't see that happening. I'm taking the Packers to get the win at home over Matt Castle and the Cowboys. Sunday night game, Patriots travel to Houston to take on the Texans. Who do you got? Yeah, Patriots have lost 2 in a row, and they look to struggle on offense last week without their go-to tight end, Rob Gronkowski. I think that's going to be a huge loss for Tom Brady and the Pats. He's not going to be 100% for the rest of the season, but if he can get back and healthy by the postseason, the Patriots should be just fine. Like you said, the Texans defense have been really playing well recently until they got thrashed by the Buffalo Bills last week. J.J. Watt suffered a broken hand in practice this week, but he still plans to play. Patriots have won 5 of 6 meetings all time against the Texans. Tom Brady, he's completed 65% of his passes against them to go along with 13 touchdowns in those 6 games. I'm rolling with the banged-up Pats, although the Texans are going to come in ready to play. This could be a really good game on Sunday night regardless. I'm going to take the New England Patriots over the Texans in primetime. Last game, we're running late on time. Giants travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins Monday night. Jake, who do you got? Yeah, let's hope so. I'm taking the Giants as well. Dolphins, they've only won 2 of the last 6, and they've only scored 20 points once over that stretch, so they're a struggling team. I think the Giants are going to be on fire, ready to go after a couple tough losses. This one's a toss-up game. I'm taking the Super Bowl champion quarterback. I'm taking Eli Manning and the Giants to get the win over Ryan Tannehill and the Dolphins on Monday night in Miami. All right, that's going to do it for us this week on the Sports Power Hour. I'm Brandon Pavlina, as always, alongside Jake Barajas. Don't know if we'll be back here next week. This might be the last show of the semester. So, hey, thanks everybody for listening this semester. Have a great break. Have a great finish to your semester. Just enjoy yourself. Kick your feet up on the couch. Relax a little bit. Don't get too stressed out. This has been Brandon Pavlina, Jake Barajas, 99.1 FM, WIUX, LP Bloomington. It's the Sports Power Hour. We want to thank everyone again out there for listening. Stay tuned right here as Kieran will be taking you into the afternoon. She'll be playing you some high-quality tunes for the next 2 hours. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Have a great break, everybody.